Let's talk a little baseball with our baseball guy. It's Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio. He's the best in the biz. He's a former GM with the Mets and the Orioles, current host of MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM Monday Visits, brought to you by the great Flat Stick Pub. Click on that QR code. It's going to take you right to a Flat Stick Pub. Perfect spot for date night, guys night, ladies night, large group event. Great place for the Cougs, who were victorious this weekend in the Apple Cup. Visit one of their 6 locations across the Northwest at flatstickpub.com. Jim, how are you? Good weekend?
What's going on? Hey, it was a good weekend. How about yourself?
Great weekend. My alma mater, Washington State University. We won the Apple Cup. It was great.
Very nice.
The Mariners keep winning. The Seahawks win. It was a trifecta of a weekend. The Mariners, they don't want to die, Jim. They don't want to go away.
They keep hanging in there. You know, Major League Baseball, other teams want to put a fork in them, but they're not ready to go quite yet. I tell you, it's been fantastic, right? 8 of the last 11, beating Texas 3 or 4. Like, Texas is down, obviously. They're missing Corey Seager. They've had a tough season, but still, they had 3 really good pitchers matched up against them in the first 3 games of that series. The rookie Kumar Rocker, who can be absolutely filthy nasty, and then, of course, DeGrom and Scherzer. And you look at what they have done during that stretch, what Julio has done during that stretch, the offense in general. Well, I can't even believe I'm saying this. The offense is actually looks good right now. There's some things that they're doing that they haven't done all season.
They've talked about that. They've talked about the influence, Jim, of Edgar Martinez and what he has made to the team, what he's made to the offense. They've said, and they've all repeated this, it's not like he's overwhelmed them with information. He's asked them to reel it back and simplify, right? Simplify the approach. And in this day and age, with so much information, Jim, we've talked about this a lot. It's probably hard to pull back on all the information you're getting, but you have an old school player with an old school approach.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about some sort of simplification. It sounds, as we've talked about a lot, it sounds like things were overly complicated, and you can get paralyze yourself as a hitter if you're over analyzing the statistical aspects of what is this pitcher trying to do to get me out. It's not just he's getting me out with fastballs or breaking balls. What it seems like they were trying to do is trying to slice that pie even thinner and say, well, hey, in 2-0 counts, this pitcher likes to throw breaking balls 60% of the time or 55% of the time. You're trying to make these estimates and guesses. And listen, hitting is hard, especially in that ballpark, right? So that to me, really stands out. But what Edgar's basically said, listen, we're going to go back to this. Hey, let's work off the fastball. When we have opportunities to score runners, especially with runners on third, their numbers here recently, they've had, the chances to score with a runner on third less than 2 outs. They've scored 62% of them so during this stretch, really under Dan Wilson and Edgar, which is a number that is well above what they did over the course of the season. So just simply putting the ball in play with a runner on third and scoring runs. It seems simple to all of us, but they were having a hard time with it too. So I think all of that is kind of stands out to me as what Edgar has brought to the table here.
Yeah, are they running out of time though? I mean, they still look at the division right now, and you're 4.5 games back. Yeah. Of the Astros. Now, again, they've got 6 games right in front of them before they end up playing Houston, that pivotal series. They're 2.5 games back of the Twins, but it's really 3.5 because of the tiebreaker that the Twins and Tigers have. They are playing better baseball. You don't doubt it, but are they just going to run out of games? They have 12 games left in the season.
I mean, that's the problem that we're seeing here, right? And they've got 2 series left at home. One of them is against the Yankees. Yankees are still playing for something. That becomes increasingly more difficult. Now, the silver lining is you go to Texas. Hopefully you can go beat up them for 3. But then you have Houston, who's still playing for the division, and then Oakland coming back at home. I think is how they finish. Now, Detroit has some tougher games as well in the first parts of their series. First parts of the schedule, Kansas City and Baltimore coming up. And who's the other team Houston. He says, San Diego right now for 3, and then they have a tougher part with the Angels, obviously the Mariners, and they finished at Cleveland. So I think when you look at it, yes, they're going to run out of time. But, if they can play, they're going to have to play almost perfect baseball. 8-4, and the other teams are chasing play 500. Okay, maybe they get in that way, but it's going to be difficult. And I think that's the hard part. It's going to be hard to swallow. You're going to sit there at the end of this, you go, wow, they're going to end up with 86 wins. They're not going to get in again. And, there's a lot of games between the middle of June to the middle of September that you're like, man, there's no reason why they should be on the outside looking in.
Well, that's what we talk about it a lot. There's always been this feud or this ongoing war sometimes between like baseball fans and football fans. And, it's a totally different sport. Everyone acknowledges that. But sometimes I think the baseball fan will just not get so worried about the early losses in the season. It's not football. Don't worry about it. You can't react to every game you lose. But then I always sit back and go, but they all count.
Right.
Like no one's expecting any of them to go 162-0, but all of these games count. And so when you kick a series early, in the first month or 2 months of the season, and that stuff comes back and haunts you. I mean, I guarantee we could sit back once this season is over, and if they miss the playoffs, we can circle just a handful of series in which, God, if they just goes better in that series or two, they're in the postseason.
Right. Yeah. They just score one run or more or 2 runs more. Right. They win. If they took care of business against the teams that are below 500, like that's generally what you're trying to do is trying to win the series and the bad teams and play 500 ball against the good ones. If you can do that, that's usually a good recipe to winning close to 90 games. But I do think that, balance to a roster is most important, moving forward. And the one thing that we've seen over the course of the major leagues last few years, and we've seen it in full circle with Seattle this year, is you can't go into a season with such strong pitching and, not anywhere equal to the offense. The offense has to play its part to help you win their share of games, because your pitching isn't going to continue as dominant as the pitching has been. There's still going to be periods of time where they're not pitching up to their capabilities. And by the way, there's pressure that's put on them to be perfect every single night. We've heard a couple of those guys say that over the course of the season.
Yeah, I mean it's all of them. I mean it's every time they go out there they have to be damn near perfect. They can't simply make a mistake at all when they go out there on the mound. And I think it's also going to bring up the question. Let's say if they just miss it by a game or two, and we have acknowledged the offense has looked better here since they have Dan Wilson and Edgar have taken over. It's people are going to react. This is why you should have made the move earlier. This is why you should have made the decisions earlier to move on. And I'm not saying that they're right. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but it's just people will start wondering, God, if we'd done this a month earlier, a few weeks earlier, maybe they sneak in.
Well, now that we know what we know, right? We have the ability to look back. I never would have thought that making a move with Scott Service was what they would do, right? Never imagined that they would do this. And I never, in fairness, I didn't think he was the problem. It's been the offense, it's been the overall hitting approach more than anything. If you kind of look back at this, they've changed over the hitting guy twice in one season. I've never seen that. At least you see it once during the course of the season. They did it twice, and so they're setting records for new hitting coaches. That's just absurd to me, right? So I don't understand. I don't understand that part. So, but looking at it now, all right. Well, there's a new, whatever. There was a cloud that was hanging over the clubhouse or over the team. Maybe that was it. It does happen. Unfortunately, guys, lose their job. It's part of the business. But I kind of look at that and say, wow, they should have had this hitting philosophy figured out, well before the September stretch run that we're seeing right now.
You know what's so funny about it, Jim? I don't even think it's a philosophy. I just think it's just normal. It's just like duh. I just think Edgar Martinez just went in there and just told these guys, stop looking at all the stuff. Just go up there and hit. You know what they're going to throw. We'll tell you what they're going to throw. He's got a fastball, or here's his slider, and here's his curveball, and here's all of it. but stop being so paralyzed with all the video and information we're going to give you. Just go up there like when you were in Little League. Just see the ball and hit the ball. I really think that's just kind of what he's done.
Yeah. No, I think that there is a big part of that. There's no question. Listen, the other aspect of this, right, during this stretch, Julio has gone off, right? Going into yesterday's game, Julio's got 355 batting average. You've seen some of the power numbers go up, tick up. All of a sudden, Garver looks like he's starting to swing the bat a little bit. But I want to say this, though. I want to make sure that for Mariners fans that are watching, that this, what has gone on, right, is completely unacceptable. Even if they end up with a winning record, this stretch run, no matter how well they play in September, absent of getting to the postseason, is not acceptable baseball. And what ends up happening sometimes in the front office is you hang your hat in the winter on, we had a rough second half, but we played well in September. We're trending up, and we don't have to make big changes. No, they don't. Yes, they do, actually. They can't do the same old, and that to me is like, is Edgar going to be back next year? I would hope so. I don't know, if they sign him up long term or not. I don't recall that, but Edgar needs to be back. They need to find a way to keep him, in the mix. They need to do some things this winter in terms of recruiting offensive players. Julio and Cal, Raleigh, and guys that have been here for a while, they need to dispel this myth that, hey, listen, we're hitting in the Grand Canyon. That's what this league everyone thinks that you can't hit the ball out of that ballpark on a consistent basis. They have to dispel that, or the team has to do something about it as well.
It's a perfect segue because you shared something with me, an article that from The Athletic talking about the role that Buster Posey has now taken with the San Francisco Giants ownership group. More hands-on. That seemed like he was very instrumental in Matt Chapman signing a deal there to remain in San Francisco. What is it that Posey now is doing with the Giants? Just, expand on that. And then who could that person here in Seattle be to help out this front office and help out this ownership group?
So it's interesting because as soon as he retired, he bought into an ownership stake in the Giants. So it's a little different. If there was a former Mariner that could buy into, and there's plenty of them, but let's say, for argument's sake, I don't know if Ichiro would do that, but to me,
Griffey's a part as an owner.
Be a good one. There you go, Griffey. Let's use Griffey as an example. But what Buster Posey's doing, and what a guy like Griffey could do, if you're part ownership, is first off they have some a lack of faith right now in the front office. They've had in San Francisco and in Seattle. Okay, so there's some similarities here. San Francisco has not gotten to the postseason only one time during this stretch. Oh, guess what? Same thing there in Seattle. They've had down seasons this year. Didn't get to the postseason. They try to change things over, and so and there was an extension that was given to the Giants front office, and guess what? There was an extension given to the Mariners front office. So there's more similarities than differences here. It's a tough place to hit in San Francisco. Yep. Same thing in Seattle. But what Buster Posey did was he got involved. They did not have faith that their general manager could close out a deal with Matt Chapman, right? Matt Chapman just had signed on a one-year deal. They were working through some things. And he jumped in and had direct conversations with the player. Hey, we want you here. If what's the holdup is a no-trade clause, you're getting a no-trade clause. Like they went to that kind of level. And Buster moving forward is going to be more actively involved in having conversations with players from outside to try to attract them there. And by the way, in the same article, other players with the Giants had said the same thing. That's what the Mariners have to do. They're in the same boat where if they're getting held up on some negotiations here, then maybe it's Griffey, maybe it's somebody else gets involved. If they're having a hard time attracting players, that it needs to be a full-out blitz. Who can say no to Julio Rodriguez? That's hard to do if you're a player out there, as long as the money's there. And again, it's always going to wrap back into the money. The Giants ownership has shown a willingness to spend where the Mariners haven't. And that's where the difference stops, and that's a big difference. But that's the type of activity that you're going to need from the Mariners, I think, to attract better offensive talent.
Yeah, and I want to applaud what you said because I think, you know, as well as they're playing right now, and as people are getting excited in this town and all of it, even if they sneak in, this is a disappointing season because this was not what it was supposed to be. This wasn't supposed to be getting in on the final day of the year and sneak into a wild card.
Right.
The goal was to win the division. The goal was to win the division, get to the playoff, obviously get to the playoffs, but get to the World Series. And with this pitching staff, you have as good a chance of anyone to win the whole damn thing. And we've joked about this before on other shows is I could envision a scenario where they get in the offseason, Jim, and they start praising themselves for saying, well, we missed it by a game or two. Although the future is bright. We're almost there. We've got this next wave of talent coming. Stay with us. No, that's not what it is. That continues to push the goalpost with this organization. Don't look at what they've done here in the last month. They need to reevaluate how they start off the season so they're not in this position again. And that's on everyone. It's ownership, front office, players included. So, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be real, hesitant to give them too much praise how they finished.
No, I don't think you can because the division. This was the year the division was in grasp.
Yes.
Right? You don't get many opportunities to take the division, win the division. Every year is different. Listen, I don't want to, we'll knock on wood. There's no jinxing here, but you may have injuries to pitchers next year that derail your season. Like there's things that happen across the league all the time. And so when you have the opportunity to win, you try to take advantage of it. And they missed out on a golden opportunity to beat Houston, again, 10-game lead. Don't have to go down that road again, how quickly it evaporated. But, I think that, it's up to the fan base to hold the ownership accountable here in the wintertime to make sure that they're active and that they're spending to get out of this rut that they're in and the lack of postseason appearances, because it's just not acceptable. The 540 winning percentage isn't acceptable. It's getting in the postseason is what matters. Even if it's 83 wins, 84 wins, but you get into the postseason, that matters more than any type of winning percentage. So, I think that's where, fans, if they're excited, hey, great, enjoy this run. But whether they get in or not, remember that they missed an opportunity and keep pushing for ownership to spend.
Hey, last thing for you. Is Ohtani really going to pitch in the postseason? Do you? I mean, Dave Roberts kind of hinted at it. I wouldn't shut the door on it. This was the whole reaction to the glass now being done. Do you think they'd really do it?
No, I would be stunned. You didn't hear from Andrew Friedman, their president of baseball operations. But if you remember last year, a year ago, Walker Buehler was coming back from Tommy John surgery, and there were actually videos of him, and he was throwing gas. He was throwing 97, 98 miles an hour. And there was thought that he might come back, and he had Tommy John, I think, earlier the year before than when Ohtani did. Ohtani had surgery last September. So, and it wasn't quite the same Tommy John surgery, but there was a brace that was involved with it too. But, recovery periods from this type of surgery are usually 15 months. And I cannot imagine that with the amount of money they gave him to be a two-way player, right? He's going to pitch and be a position player for the foreseeable future, that they would risk him in a one-inning stint or a two-inning stint and have him pitch in the postseason. I just don't see it. I know Dave Roberts didn't want to close the door on that, but if I'm in the front office, I'm coming out over the next couple of days and say, there's no way that he's going to be pitching this year, and close the door. And then, by the way, if he does progress, in the slight chance that he's like, oh my, like he is ready, okay, you can change your mind. But I would not put out hope out there that there's even a crack in the door that he could come back, because I think it'd be putting him at risk.
Yeah, we are weeks away from the playoffs, but I tell you, it's going to be a great playoff. And God, it's going to be awesome. This year's MLB playoffs, because I don't know. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen. And that's the frustrating part with the situation that Seattle put themselves in, because there is not a clear front runner to win the whole thing. There just isn't.
No.
And I mean, even the Dodgers have their issues. They got a lot of issues with their starting pitching and all that. And I just think what an opportunity for them this season. And if they miss it, they just blew it. But it's going to be fun. I mean, my God, it's going to be a wild playoffs.
Yeah, and like you said, even in the National League, when you have the Dodgers and the Phillies that look like clear-cut favorites, we've seen clear-cut favorites not do anything in the postseason, right? Last year, 100-win team in Atlanta, got bounced. So did the Dodgers. There really is, I think, more than I can remember in the last few years, kind of a you pick 'em type of postseason. Anyone could do it.
That's it for the Jim Duquette Show. Every Monday we talk baseball, a little Mariners, a little MLB with Jim Duquette, former Mets and Orioles GM, current host, MLB Network Radio on Sirius XM. You can please visit Flat Stick Pub as they bring you Jim Duquette every single week. Perfect spot for a date night, guys' night, ladies' night, large group event. Visit one of their 6 locations across the Northwest at flatstickpub.com. Click on that QR code as well. It's going to take you right to Flat Stick Pub. You're the best. We'll got one more week, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Jim.
All right. Look forward to it. See you, Puck.
There he's Jim Duquette.